my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach, and it's Friday, so you know what that means. It's time for Friday Fun Day. So today we're going to do just a little bit of a study on tension. And what tension has to do with is your hook size and your yarn size. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make this adorable little heart stuffy, and I'm going to show you. This one is made in a bulky, super bulky number 6 yarn. This one is made in a bulky number 5. The smaller one is made in a medium weight number 4, and I used a different hook for each one. And the reason I'm doing this is these are super fun to make. The pattern is the same no matter what size you make. The difference is the yarn you choose and the hook. And the reason that I'm doing this is I've had a lot of questions when I have a pattern out there and they'll say, but do I have to use that hook or do I have to use that yarn? We're going to talk a little bit about that, and also if your tension is looser or tighter, what to do. And then we're also going to, of course, make some cute heart stuffies. We're calling this the Lovey Heart Stuffie. Isn't it adorable? I think it's just so cute. All right, let's talk supplies. So this is our Lovey Stuffie Hearts all stitched up. These two are done with super bulky number 6 yarns, and I stitched those up using an L hook. And an L hook is an 8.0 millimeter crochet hook. So if you're going to use a super bulky number 6, you're going to need an 8 millimeter crochet hook. All right, this one is done with a regular bulky, which is a bulky number 5, which is a little bit smaller than our bulky, super bulky 6, but not as small as our medium weight number 4. And you can see it's a little bit smaller. All right, so if you're going to make the super bulky, it's going to measure about 6 inches across. If you're going to make this one, it's about 4.5 inches across. And some of the medium, or some of the bulky 5 have measured as much as 5 inches across. And remember, yarns have a little bit of wiggle room in there as well. And then this one is done with the medium weight number 4. This is that sprinkle yarn that we used for our cupcake pattern, and it measures 4 inches across. So basically, and here's that yarn there, and so basically the bulky, super bulky number 6, we use the 8 millimeter. The bulky number 5, we're going to use the 6 millimeter, which is a J hook. And if you're using medium weight number 4, you're going to use an H, which is a 5 millimeter. Now this is really important because if you use this great big hook on your medium weight number 4, it's going to be loose. If you're doing something lacy, that's okay, but we're not. We want our stitches to be nice and tight because we're going to stuff a little bit of stuffing inside our Lovey hearts. All right, and this is where when you're working on something and the crochet hook is either too big or too small, it's very important to first use the crochet hook that the crochet pattern designer has recommended. Okay, so what happens if you're stitching your medium weight number 4 heart and it's pulling too much, you've got too much space in between? Well, I used the H, which is a 5 millimeter, but if you're stitching looser than I do, you can go down a hook size. Well, what if it's pulling too tightly and the stitches are all bunched up? Then you can go up a hook size and go to maybe an I hook, which is a 5.5. And these are adjustments that you can make yourself. But it's very important when you're making a pattern, especially one you've never tried before, make sure you use the recommended hook size with the recommended yarn weight. Okay, and you just need a small amount. You're going to be making 2 hearts, a front and a back, and then we're going to stitch them stuff them, and then finish stitching them. Now these two, I didn't put a face on them, but I thought these were just dying for a cute face. So I grabbed some of my safety eyes, and these are about 1/2 inch safety eyes. You can get them in all sizes. You can get little tiny ones for these as well. Just keep in mind that if you're making these for children, I recommend using maybe a French knot instead of a safety eye. If you're making these for a friend or they're just going to be decorations, then safety eyes are okay. All right, but you just need a small amount of yarn, enough to make a front and a back for your heart, and stitch around it. And you can see this one was a variegated yarn, and so the front and back are different. The back is purple, the front is blue, and then it has a little bit of blue right there, which I think is kind of fun. And this one, of course, is the same on the front and the back. These also make great things where you can like hang them up, maybe put some beads, decorate. And you can see you don't have to make your Valentine hearts in red, because hearts are not just for Valentine's Day. Okay, so make sure you've got a little bit of polyester fiber fill stuffing. If you want safety eyes or another color of yarn to make eyes and a smile, I put a little, I call this a bow kiss. It's just a V, and then this one I put a big smile on. Make sure you've got some of that extra stuff. Pick your yarn, pick your hook, and we'll get started. I have decided for today's demonstration to make my Lovey Stuffie Heart using a super bulky blanket yarn. And I did one heart in red. Red is really difficult to film, and so I decided I wanted to use this brown. It makes me think of chocolate-covered strawberries. And so what I'm going to do is I've made my red one, which is going to be the front. I've gone ahead and attached my safety eyes. If you're going to use safety eyes, you'll need to put those in after you've finished your first heart. And all you do is you just slide it through, you take the back and put it on, and then you push it on. One thing to remember is make sure that you get that safety eye like through a stitch and not through the holes between the stitches, or it won't stay put. It'll slide in or out. And remember, if you're making this for small children, don't use safety eyes. Maybe use some black yarn and make a French knot. Okay? So I've got one heart made, and I'm going to cut this red off because I'm going to make the second heart, like I said, in this brown. I was going to say beige. I guess it is kind of beige. And then I'll do the trim around both of them with this beige. I think it'll look really cute. So I have the yarn that I've chosen for my heart, and my hook, which is an 8mm because I'm using a super bulky blanket yarn. Remember, if you're using medium weight number 4, you need your 5mm hook. If you're using a bulky 5, you need a 6mm hook. And with the super bulky number 6, I'm using an 8mm crochet hook. And all of them are stitched exactly the same. All right, so I'm making my slip knot, and I'm going to chain 8 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I have 8 chains. I'm going to stitch in the second chain from the hook and stitch a single crochet, and then I'll stitch 1 single crochet in those stitches across. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We started in the second chain from the hook, and so I have 7 single crochets. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. So we've chained 1, we're going to turn. Our chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so we're going to go right in that first single crochet and stitch 1 single crochet in each of those 7. I have a little knot there, but we're just going to ignore it for the demonstration. If it was not a demonstration, I would take it out and fix that. Alrighty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 single crochets and chain 1. So now I have 2 rows of single crochet. And so what we're going to do is we're going to repeat row 2, which is 1 single crochet in each of those 7, chain 1, turn, and we're going to repeat that for 5 more rows so that we have a total of 7 rows of single crochet. So we're repeating row 2 for 5 more rows. I repeated row 2 for 5 more rows, so I have 7 rows with 7 single crochets on each row. So we chained 1, here's where we chained 1 and turned. And we're going to start working across the top, and then we'll turn and work down the side. All right, so in this first single crochet, we're going to stitch a single crochet. We're going to skip the next 2, and then in that next stitch, we're going to stitch 5 triple stitches. All right, there's 1. Now we're going to stitch 5 more. So 2 wraps, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2, yarn over, and go through the last 2. So there's 2. We need to stitch 3 more. All right, so I stitched those 3 more, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triples stitched in that single crochet. We're going to skip the next 2, and then in this last stitch, right in that corner, we're going to stitch a slip stitch. So we go in, pull up a loop, pull that loop through the loop that's on our hook. And this is going to pull a little. We want it to be a little bit poochy because it is a stuffy, and you'll see it sort of bends around in the back, and that's okay. We want it to do that because we're going to stuff it. So now we're going to be working down the side of our rows of stitches, and it's similar in that we're going to be stitching 5 triples, but we don't have a stitch to go in. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, here's our slip stitch in the end, we're going to skip these 2 rows, and then in this 3rd row, we're going to stitch those 5 triples. And you want to make sure you get it in the side of the stitch and not a hole, or you'll have a hole there when you're done, okay? So there's 2. 1, 2, 3, that's our second one. And now I need to stitch 3 more. So now I have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triples in that end of that stitch. And like I said, make sure you go in the end of the side of that stitch and not the hole in between, or you'll have a hole where your stuffing will show through. Again, it's going to pooch up a little. That's exactly what we want it to do. Then we'll skip those last 2 rows and single crochet in the end of that last row. All right, I'm going to put a chain 1 just to keep it from coming undone. I'll make a loop there so I know to pull that out so that you can see how that looks, okay? So here's my beige one, or brown, and here's the red one that I made to go with it. So now we're going to put the 2 together. Now remember, if you're going to use safety eyes, go ahead and put them in now. And also, I just used my crochet hook and pulled my ends to the inside of my hearts, okay? You can use a needle and weave them into the inside. Either way works just fine. All right, so now we're going to take our hearts. We're going to put the wrong sides together. And on your second heart, leave your yarn attached. And I'm going to take that chain 1 out of there. There we go. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet around. Now when we do these 5 triples, we're going to put 2 single crochets in each of those triples. All right, so we're going to start right here in this single crochet on the side and stitch a single crochet. All right, so now this brings us to the 5 triples. So we're going to put 2 single crochets in each of those 5 triples. This is just going to help it go around those little heart bumps better and lay a lot prettier. So 2 single crochets in the 5 triples, and again you're stitching the front and the back together. There's 4. 1, 2, and this would be 5. Oops, get both those loops. There we go. All right, so right there you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 1, 2, 3. Oh, I forgot the second one. Gotta have that second one. There we go. Our 5 triples with 2 single crochets in each. That brings us to the center where we did our single crochet. So we're just going to stitch 1 single in that one, and then we'll do the 5 triples the same as we did over here. All right, so 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and I'm really liking this brown on here. Looks like a chocolate strawberry. 1, 2. Roll out my yarn a little bit more. All right, so you're going to put 2 single crochets in each of those 5, and then we'll stitch all the way down to the corner with just single crochets. So we stitched around that second heart bump, 2 single crochets in each of those triples, and then I single crocheted evenly down to the corner. So here we're at the corner, and in the corner we're going to stitch a single crochet. We're going to chain 1 and then single crochet in that same corner. And I've got a little bit of a knot there. This yarn seems to be quite knotty today, and of course I'll come back and fix that later. And then what we want to do on this side is you want to single crochet just 1 time for right now, and that just holds our corner together. And we're going to take our stuffing. I've just got a little bit of polyester fiber fill, and you can use whatever amount you want to. I like to take a little bit, pull that out a little, and stick it right up in the top of that first heart bump. And then I'll take a little more and put it in that second heart bump. And of course, the amount you put in there is up to you. I like them to not be quite so tight. I want them to be soft and squishy. There we go. A little bit more. Okay, so now he's stuffed. He looks cute. And I'll just finish single crocheting up the side of my heart, my Lovey Stuffie. There we go. Right up the side. And then I can join to that first single crochet with a slip stitch. We'll cut that. And we'll go in that next stitch and pull that loop to the back. There we go. All right. And what I do, because working with blanket yarn is a little more difficult than your other yarns, is I'll go like down into the Lovey and just pull it in, that strand, like this. I'll pull it back up, pulled out some stuffing there. And I'll usually do like this and just pull it in, and it helps it stay put. But that's just with blanket yarn. With other yarns, I'll use my needle and weave that in. All right, so here is, it's so cute. I can't help it. He's so cute. And I've got a little knot here, and I'm going to pull that in with my hook. For some reason, this blanket yarn was very knotty, and I had like 4 knots in it, but I'll just pull it to the inside. You won't see it there. There we go. Now he's all nice and shaped, and it needs a mouth. Let me grab some pink, and I'll show you how to add that mouth. All right, I just grabbed a little bit of medium weight number 4 pink, and I added 2 strands, and I'm just going to make that little mouth that's a V. And so I'm going to go about right here, and I really just eyeball it. You can measure it if you want to. Make sure you go in stitches and not holes. There we go. And I'll just do that again. Nice thick mouth there. Alrighty, and then I'll swirl that in that stuffing and pull that to the back. Alright, now when I did that, it pulled a little, so I'm just going to use my needle and kind of bring that out. And then I'm going to thread these ends on and pull that to the back as well. Swirl it in some stuffing and pull that through. And then again, I'll check to make sure it didn't pull too much. And there's my little bow mouth, like he's blowing you a little kiss. And then I'll just take my crochet hook that I dropped on the floor and pull those to the inside as well. So I've got a little fuzz ball on there. All right, and that's how you make your Lovey Stuffie. Now remember, using the right yarn and the right crochet hook makes your project work out a lot better. And also remember, if it's too tight, go up a hook size. If it's too loose, go down a hook size. So aren't these just the cutest thing? I just love them. And again, the super bulky made of blanket yarn, or this one is velvet super bulky, measure about 6 inches. So they're nice sized, soft and squishy. And remember, you don't have to use the safety eyes if you don't want to. You can make them just plain like these smaller ones that I made. Or you can add French knots for eyes and embroidery a mouth. It's totally up to you. Again, I wanted to do a little bit of a study so that you would get an understanding of why the hook size is really important, that it corresponds along with the size of the yarn. Okay? All right, now go make some hearts and have some fun, and I'll see you next week for Friday Fun Day with Sara.